This conference will now be recorded.
Hello. I wanted to make a video today on market structure with order flow, just to make sure that the concept of order flow and market structure is going into place. Because even though market structure is really just you seeing the breaks of the structure highs, like if this right here is a trend down, then you can pretty much see that the change in the trend is changing, because a lot of these structure highs, which is the supply that was created on the downtrend, are being broken. And so once you recognize the broken supply and then add that into order flow, I just feel personally that that's a game changer, and you can definitely uh, take trades and use that as Confluence. So when you have order flow there, and then you have a break in market structure that you're seeing, a lot of these patterns and things of that nature, you can just be able to trade and dominate any time frame, just based off of that. So today we're gonna just pretty much go into it, and I'm just gonna explain it and try to just give you a real good understanding of trading with the market structure and order flow. So I'm gonna go ahead and just remove that off of here, and we'll just do the trend line. So as you can see, this right here was pretty much a trend down. And everywhere where you see a base or where these little peaks are coming to retest, this is going to be pretty much order flow. But also, if you look at the order flow video, when it says that supply is being replaced, this right here is pretty much the origin of the downtrend. So this is where pretty much all started from, right up in here. So this right here is completely the origin of this whole downtrend. With that being said, if you remember in the order flow video wheels order flow video, he was saying how supply can be replaced, and so that's going to pretty much be that fresh order flow. So if this is the origin and this is the original, it when this pullback here, it pretty much replaced that order flow or that supply, in this downtrend, with this level right here. So anytime the market comes up to this price here and retests this price, it's pretty much just going to reform itself. So this is how it looks pretty much when you see fresh order flow being replaced, and it just keeps being lower and lower and being replaced. Down here was just the last push, and then you can also see the level here. But this also should be able to help you identify when it's being broken. So if you are aware of the BTC, as you can see, this is a trend. So if you had a trend line, it will probably come here. Let's just go ahead and do it for video purposes. This would be the pretty much the trend line for it. And so now that the market is starting to trend up, you can see where some of the structure highs is being broken, and that's pretty much how market structure works. So it's just that this is how the market came down. It came up, didn't having yet taken this out, it came back to where where demand is formed. And so this is pretty much that whole W situation that I was letting you know in that market structure, how it comes here, forms demand, pretty much breaks this high right here, this structure high right here, comes back down to retest. And as you can see, this is a sideways order flow. And this is how it looks when, in Will's video, it say the supply or demand has formed on its own. If I was to remove this and we was to take a look into this, where this demand was pretty much formed, as you can see, this is how it looks when it forms itself. It just means that it wasn't like a retracing to where it's a pullback move. It was just sideways pause. It was just a natural pause. So that was natural order flow that formed on its own there. And so that's when you get the whole entire demand level. And it just pretty much lifted up when it came back to retest this order flow here. So as you can see, market structure and order flow goes. So even though you see that the market structure had created demand, the order flow being there was all saying, let's pretty much buy this. And so it did come back, kind of created some sideways movement. But this is the area that definitely allowed it to break all of this market structure high right here. So therefore, the most recent small peak or the most recent structure high was broken, and this right here took it into a whole entire another phase. So this right here is like a market structure. So as you can see, you definitely is in a whole nother phase, and all it allows you to see is just how this comes here, pulls back there. As you can see, that was demand formed on its own, and all this is doing is just come back retesting it. Has broken this structure high right here. Boom, came back into it to retest, and it's just pretty much retesting this entire move and this entire border that's pretty much there. Because that's like, if you're using wheels phases, Eddie's phases, then market structure is really like to me, a deeper version of how Eddie explained his phases, because it does. You can, as you can obviously see, this is whole phase one, and then it broken up into phase two, and it came back to test the demand border of that area. But then also you can see that this is a gap, because if this right here closed, if this candle closed here, and then it opened there, you can just tell that this is a gap up in here. So all of this is just kind of like retested with the border and everything. But it comes back up. And this is just pretty much market structure. If you can, you can watch wheel market structure. It's like a 12-minute video. And I'll try to get it recorded and put in here for you guys. But definitely, market structure is just really anticipating the breaks of the structure highs and the structure lows. Because even with this down movement, you can still see where structural lows were broken, and when it comes back to retest, this supply level that was formed on its own just came back and retested this, and it just keep reforming just the base of this. And so it just keeps happening, and all you see is just these structure areas that was being broken. um, and then it just go on and on. You just see it all throughout the You just see it all throughout. And so each time you can just see where structure was pretty much broken. This structure was broken. Then came here and this structure was broken. And then we can go over just to see what happened from there. Came down, tested a lot of this demand in this area here. And that's just pretty much the market just finding orders. It wasn't enough orders here to really just give it that shot. So it just, and every time it came back down, you see that you just had to go lower. So the fact that this had already retested this order flow right here, do know that those order deplenish once it has already been retested the first time. So if you're looking for buys and this is where the market was trading and you were at, when you see that it's coming back down, you need to be setting up in lower order flow, um, so that you definitely aren't catching a lot of drawdowns with your buys. So if you try to buy exactly at the peak or valley, you can catch a lot of heat there. But what you need to do is that if it already retested this order flow, then just look a little bit further down to the next demand level and just go with the order flow there, because your chances and your high and your trade would be more high probability in that case. And so you just want to use the rules of order flow. Order flow is just that that the orders deplenish every time the market goes to that price. So it's just going to have to continue to reach further to get orders and collect enough orders going in that direction. And so as you can see, it just pretty much came down here to just collect way more orders, came back, tested the demand that was created from that lower order flow. So if you waited on all this to develop, and when it finally gave you some type of demand there, then this was your chance to pretty much go ahead and get it. And that's about 400 pips up on that. But you knew the direction was up because it continued to break structure. It continued to break these structure highs. And you can continue to see that demand was created, because when it was trending down, it had created demand, and that lets you know that it was going to continue up as well. So when you seen this demand created and then it came here to retest it, you could have been buying off of this demand that was freshly created. And then the market just comes down back to the area where it was retested, lifts up off of it, another 200-300 pips. And it's just that these things could be anticipated, but once you're knowing in the market, once you are aware of it and you put it into practice, then you definitely will know. Um, so this is just going right here, and as you can see, we're going to see the. So this was going in the channel, pretty much side, but you see where the market had broken structure, and it lets you know that it wanted to go into a downtrend because all of this structure and all of these demand that was created was taken out. So that means no more buyers was there. So now the sellers were in control. And so it just pretty much just allows the market to come down. And whenever it decided to retest this area where it was pretty much structure was broken, structure low was broken, and demand was broken, so it showed that no sellers was there. It pretty much just came back and retested, and it just formed supply here on its own, and that was the area that you could have just been coming way down into it with. And so when it started to rise back up, you see that it definitely created some demand there, came down, broke the structure, gave you like a little W type pattern that they like to say, but that was demand being created. So when it came back down for the retest, you could have been in on it, had broken structure. So you already know this structure high was broken. And you do see order flow being here, so you can see why the buyers were set up there pretty much to continue on up. So you can see this thing kind of being able to get up here, and it may get up into more like the 115. But we'll have to just keep an eye on it. But as you can see, this structure right here was broken. So this is going to continue on up as far as the UJ go. But that's just how you look at it, and you just add market structure in with demand. I'm not telling you to take a trade here because it broke in here, so I'm going to take a trade because this right here is so-called going to be resistance. No, I want you to take the trade, even though you see that structure has been broken. I want you to still check your trade off order flow. So when you see the market pull back up, order flow was formed here. And if this didn't stop it, then I would have been at the order flow that was formed here because this is supply being formed, but this is being formed on its own, not like a retrace. Anytime you see these peaks or valleys, those are possibly already been retested. So you'll have to go lower or higher into order flow. And I just wanted to give you like a brief general video on structure and order flow, market structure. But all you gotta do is look for the breaks of the peaks and the high, and that can just pretty much let you know, especially if you know market structure, especially if you have been studying and getting your practice on with that. That's going to be a game changer for you. So that is pretty much how market structure is. And it's just everywhere. Even with this trend up here. As you can see, even when it comes down and it starts to break this structure here, all it does is just come back in and just start retesting. So the fact that on this, even though it broke structure here and this right here had created supply and it formed on its own, when the market pulled back to that price, it was a sale at that supply level because it had formed on its own, the trend down, it had broken structure. So you have so much confluence that's just telling you, hey, this is what it is. And even here, just with the down trend, if you just want to see it, even this entire structure right here was serving as supply. And all it did was just come back up and just pretty much retest it. But this border here, as far as that supply base of the base of this peaks and valley, the bottom of that base does start down here. So that was just a retest. And so therefore it just formed another level of supply. So when you're taking trades and the market tends to trend back up towards here, these would be levels to where you will want to pretty much be buying and selling. And it did get some of this other kind of hell, but it still was more in a uptrend anyway. But just giving you the example of just how supply was formed. So even if we was right here in this area, you definitely could have been, yeah, so you definitely could have just knew that, hey, I can start selling this thing because structure is being broken. So you have a structure being broken there. That structure was being broken and it just pretty much comes back to retest it. So it came down. This structure right here was broken. So this is the area right here. That's the supply that was formed at the break of the area. Came back and retested and it just dropped even more. And it just goes on and on for real. I just wanted to kind of show you guys on how you can put market structure with order flow and it just works a lot better. So it's not like you're taking the trade exactly where it has broken the peak of the valley or demand and supply has been broken. You're pretty much, once you retrace back to the area where it was broken at, then look for order flow. Automatically start looking for order flow because that's what really moves the market. So you want to be in on, if it's a downtrend and it start breaking valleys, then you want to be finding you some sales. If it's a uptrend and it start breaking, um, if it starts breaking peaks because it's going more into an uptrend, then you want to start looking for buys at those peaks being broken. And that's just what it is. But let me know what you guys think of this video. And I just wanted to give you a little tutorial on just looking at market structure, but also taking in consideration the order flow that's there with it. And so that's how you would be wanting to pretty much take the trades. All right.
This conference will now be recorded.
This video. We always appreciate it. Hopefully it helps you in some manner. Okay, so like I said, we're going to talk about market structure. We're going to make this video brief and quick. Of course, we're not going to come in and do an entire lesson. We have the courses for that. So go ahead and visit us at our website, purefinancialacademy.com. Get all the information you need. And if you're interested in the course, we set you up with a free trial and so on and so forth. Okay, so when we're talking about market structure, that term, or better yet, terms, slogan, if you will, but it really gets thrown around, right? Market structure, this, and then supply, demand, and support and resistance, and trends, all of this, it really starts to just get confusing after a while. What is market structure? Well, market structure is actually defined by highs and lows in the market, very similar to the way that a trend is. Okay, and if you really analyze the market, you'll see that the trend is actually defining what the market structure is doing. So, are we trending up? Are we trending down? Are we going sideways? All of this is going to be defined yet again by the term market structure. Now, as we move forward and we look for trading opportunities, we are trying to define the market structure because we're looking for subtleties and mild changes to give us the opportunities to get on board. Now, when I say subtleties, I mean that you don't want it to be extremely obvious, right? Because if something is too obvious, okay, then the likelihood of it working out is probably a little bit lower because of the professionals. They know that you all see the same thing as they do. Okay, everyone sees a price chart. So again, if something looks, it's like the saying goes, if something sounds too good, it probably is. Well, you can also apply that here, guys. Okay, so if something looks too good on the price chart, it probably is. All right, and so that's not where we look to key areas of supply or demand. What we're doing is truly reading the structure in the market. And what I'm doing is just kind of scrolling back a little bit just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're looking at. And as you can see, we're looking at an hourly chart of the S&P. And so, you see a lot of candles going on in here, a lot of up and down movement, what we like to refer to as noise. So when you're analyzing this noise, okay, what we refer to as noise, or what I like to just call it as market structure. So the structure here is telling you what the market wants to do. So instead of looking at all of these candles and saying, wow, I really don't know which way the markets are going, start thinking about the market structure as individuals, right? Every single candle here refers to the psychology of thousands of individuals hitting a button at a certain time and so on and so forth. So that's how you have to start thinking about the markets, the psychology behind that market structure and what's it trying to tell you. So here, guys, if we notice, we're going to define the market structure, like we said earlier, by the highs and the lows in the market. We're just using pivot highs. Some people refer to pivot highs and pivot lows as supply and demand or support and resistance. While I would agree on the support and resistance and sometimes supply and demand, I would say that more often than not, if you're in a true area of supply and or demand, we're usually forming those pivots. Okay, we're usually forming those pivots. It's the reason that there's an imbalance in price there. So you definitely want to look to those, but we utilize the pivot points for more of a defining the structure type of thing. Okay, so we're going to kind of scroll back forward here, and you can really notice, I mean, there's just many highs and lows throughout the market. All right, and here we can tell that we have a lower low, and so on and so forth. And here's what people forget to do. Okay, just scrunch the chart up, because then you begin to see an entirely different picture. So now you can really analyze the trend as well as the overall market structure. Now this is going to vary depending on the time frame. Obviously, if you're looking at a 5-minute chart, you're going to see a 5-minute time frame trend. Okay, here we're looking at an hourly chart, so we're going to see several days going into weeks of trending, right? Or depending on what the markets are doing at that time. Right now, we've been in a very nice uptrend. So what we're looking for are these subtleties, these areas to change the structure in the market. Okay, we need to see a break, if you will, in the trend, right? So as soon as we see that break in the trend, it now gives us the opportunity of getting on board, okay, with a high probability setup, that is. So now if we're looking at this, analyzing this overall trend, then of course we can go in and plot a line. Okay, we can look at it something like this, right? So now, in order to have that subtlety that we're looking for, we need to see beginning breaks of the smaller time frame trends. Okay, now as we all know, okay, it takes 2 points to confirm, as we see right here, 2 points to create, 3 points to confirm a trend. So we have a smaller trend here within an overall large trend to the upside. So we can very easily continue a trend up, right, on the larger scale. However, on an intraday basis, if we really go in and analyze this, we can see that we have that subtlety that we keep talking about, and our trend is clearly broken. We can see it right here. This is the trend that we drew. Our trend here being clearly broken with conviction, okay? So as we come back to revisit that, we're looking for a shorting opportunity. All right, and these are the market structure subtleties. These are market structure changes. What we were looking for are we're measuring the highs and the lows in any given trend, okay? And on the way up, we want to see higher swing highs and higher swing lows. There's a few things that can offset that trend. For example, lower swing lows, okay? Lower swing highs. Anything that's lower in an uptrend, that's a sign. In other words, the market structure is trying to tell you something, okay? So once we come back to revisit that area where the imbalance occurred in the first place, then, we're probably going to turn there again, okay? Now, keep in mind, guys, this being a very small trend, we've already had our trade. This being an hourly chart, you're looking at roughly, 6 points drop there in the S&P futures contract. Okay, my math is not exact, but if you're looking at over 52, roughly down to below 45, so well over that. Okay, 7-8 points drop in the S&P. So the trade has already occurred. Now, the problem being the market structure is not continuing to drop. Okay, so if we want to see a continuation of the move to the downside, then the first thing that we need to see, we're going to get rid of this. First thing that we need to see, guys, is a break of the previous swing low. Okay, so now you're going to begin to see the markets in an entirely different way. So as we draw this out, we're going to try and give you an idea of what everything would look like. And now, just so you guys know, this is not in any way a trade, or we're not anticipating this to actually occur. We're just simply talking about market structure today, okay? So here's a pattern, all right? And now what we want to do is scrunch this chart back up, okay? All right, so now let's look at that in a whole different light. Interesting how this could line up with the overall trend, right? So when you're looking at market structure, understand that you can have trends within major trends, okay? And you can absolutely make money on either one of those. Once you begin to see the overall trend broken, just the same way as we saw this smaller trend broken, then we begin to look for shorting opportunities and or the direction of current price. Okay, so guys, I don't want to confuse anyone too much. This is pretty advanced here. We're happy to get you guys into the course and teach you all about market structure, the dynamics, the balance of the markets, the equilibrium. Okay, answer all the questions that you have. So again, visit us purefinancialacademy.com. If you're interested, feel free to contact us via the form there or any form of support offered on our website. Okay, and let's get you guys understanding market structure, because this is absolutely very, very important, guys. And just so you take something away from the video today, let's get rid of all of these drawing tools, and I'm just going to apply one pattern for you, and you're going to want to pay attention to this pattern because it is very powerful. Okay, and you can define it, you can name the pattern if you want to, as it is already called many things. But you can name it, you can define it, whatever it is that you want to do. It's really irrelevant, because the key factor here is that the market structure is changing, and that's really all that you need to know. Okay, so we're going to define this pattern here. All right, now here's our pattern. Okay, all right, this is the pattern that you need to look out for in the market. Okay, so again, guys, it's one of the most powerful patterns you'll ever see. You can say, define it as a double top, ABC following a double top, whatever it is, that's okay. All right, we also know those as all. Okay, but what we're really interested in is the market structure changing. All right, so what we see is a trend to the upside, and then we fall back, just a typical pullback could be, but then all of a sudden, right here, we form a lower swing high. Now, this is absolutely trying to tell you something right off of the bat, but maybe not enough of a conviction to turn your thought process in the market. Okay, a lot of people don't like to counter trend trade the market, as very smart way to trade. Nonetheless, this is conviction. Okay, once you form a lower swing high and you violate the previous swing low, the market structure has now completely changed, and it's trying to tell you that it is forming a bit of weakness. Therefore, we are looking for shorting opportunities. It would be the same to the downside if you had a pattern of this nature. Okay, it's the exact same pattern right there. All right, so it would be up. So now we'd be looking for long opportunities, because we formed a higher swing low here, and we violated the previous swing high. So now the market structure clearly changing. We would be looking for long opportunities. All right, guys, hope you found value. Again, take away from this a very simplistic approach. Don't overcomplicate the markets. All right, that's the last thing that we want to do. We want to keep it very simple, analyze the trend, analyze the market structure, allow it to give us a permission of what we are to do in the market. Okay, so guys, again, we hope you found value here. Everyone, trade safe, trade green, and if you're not getting the education you need, let's get you on.
This conference will now be recorded.
Guys, I really just wanted to show you Will's market structure point of view, because you do see those patterns pretty much everywhere. in this market. And so once I had started to notice that where market structure pretty much played out, because it's just like in this right here is pretty much a downtrend as we can see. But when you see that demand has been formed and then it come back here and forms an even higher demand level. So now this right here is that higher demand. This right here is that higher demand. And here goes the break of the structure highs, even here. So here goes the breaks of the structure highs. So now all of this right here is broken. So now if you were even trying to sell off all of this is canceled out. This supply level is canceled out. No sellers was there. So this breaking this and going in the uptrend, it lets you know that no sellers are here. So now this is null and void. No sellers are here. That's pretty much null and void. And that's why you really want to be at the origin of the sale. So I wouldn't be looking for sales. I would be definitely looking for buys because this right here, this whole structure here had let me know that it was an uptrend. Demand was created there, came back and retested, made a higher demand level, came here, broke the entire structure, and it pretty much was an uptrend. So demand was formed on its own right here. So when the market trended down, the orders were collected here, and it was enough to keep it pushing and keep it moving. And so as you see, this structure right here had been taken out, and so it came back at the retest at order flow, which is there at the base, and continued on down and just continued on down until it found enough buyers to definitely give it some up movement. Pretty much really went sideways in that area. So even if you were here, boom, boom. Sorry. So even if you were here, you came down. This right here was now broken. So definitely might be in some down movement because you are seeing these structural levels being broken, but you're also seeing that supply was greater than the zone, came back here, retested it, sold down even further. So even with market structure, and even though you see these breaks, I want you guys to pretty much focus on taking the sale at order flow, not taking it at where the break of the valley is. Still find order flow near the break of the structure low or near the break of the structure high. Find the order flow that's in the area and take the trade there. Don't just take the trade just because it broke that area and now you're calling yourself selling it off of some type of resistance. Still take the trade pretty much at the order flow level because even when this right here, even when the structure high was broken right here, it came down, but it still tested order flow. Order flow was right up in here. Order flow was right up here. You had a gap right up in here. And so pretty much it just came down to test the whole beginning origin of this trend up and down. Tested this. Might be going into up movements there based off of it. And down we have broken structure a little bit. So it pulled down, broken way more. And so you're just gonna see it like continue to do it on and on and on. But all it does is just pretty much come back and retest that order flow. So if demand was created right here, it's gonna retest that, come and get the orders and could just continue its way on up. Just continue its way. and down that structure some. Definitely, because we know that it did break the structure, we could be in some down movement. And so it should definitely is. And you see it just did a whole sideways movement, found the bucket. Even though the break is here, we're gonna just come at order flow. As you can see, order flow was going right up in here on its own. That's what the whole retracement was about. You see the fly right up in there. The market structure was broken there, and you did get order flow. So the supply that was created on its own, it was just like boom, you would have been looking for sales. So even if you miss this right here, and this is obviously a break, but you also see a little order flow there. It did come up and retrace that, and that was just automatically just order flow being pretty much replaced, pretty much being fully replaced.
This conference will now be recorded.
When I say order flow is being replaced, like where you see those gray boxes and how supply is becoming lower and lower, and that is being replaced, and that's the next level of supply. This is the information on the order flow that I'm talking about. Will said it in his order flow video, and this is my notes in textbook form on that order flow, fresh order flow too. Fresh order flow refers to a level that has never been tested before, meaning it has never been tested since the level formed. So whenever the supply slash demand price level formed and has never come back to test the level again, once price has come back to test the price level, the level is no longer as a fresh but most recent level form is now fresh, and once tested again it's no longer fresh, and this can go on and on and on. New levels of supply and demand are fresh until they are tested, making them no longer fresh. A fresh level of supply being formed with every retest of the refresh level during a downtrend. So during a downtrend, which we see in real time. This is what I'm referring to, just that fresh order flow. And so this is a real physical picture of it. Is that supply was oh so supply was originally here, and so once this came and formed this no longer was fresh order flow. Order flow was now testing in this area, and as you can see, it just continued to recreate itself on that downtrend. And so that's what that's referring to. So if you're seeing the making of a downtrend, if it continues to make supply there, you know that you would have to jump on order flow in that nearest area that's now where that supply is. So this right here gave you 3 times. It was not going to make it here no more. So if you already seen this and it came down, now that it's trading up high and you see that this level is created, this is where your trades need to be with getting in on the sale, because this is going to be, it keeps forming fresh supply. So this is no longer fresh supply, and this is where the supply is now on a downtrend. Just like when the market trend down here, and once it created this supply right here, this was where supply was formed. So this is where your sales needed to be, and it just recreating itself, and it just allows to let you know that that is where pretty much your buys want to be. And it's the same with demand. You can see it over here. Originally, this is where demand was formed. We're gonna get it right, because I'm gonna give y'all this example though. Okay, so originally this is where demand was formed here. And as you can see, once it came back to retest, demand became here. And it just keep replacing itself with fresh demand. And you just had your times to pretty much get in on the buys of your uptrend, especially once this structure right here was broken. And it just lets you know where demand was pretty much being formed, as you can see. But once all of this right here was broken, demand was formed here. So now this was the new level. Did break it and get down more into order flow, but it definitely still had created in the same area pretty much. And so now you see it just keep creating fresh demand. And so your buys will have to be higher and higher, getting away from the origin and not trending up. And so you'll just pretty much this where you know the setup. When you see this pullback and you see demand being created, if it tests back there, that's where your buys will have to be in order to continue on up with it. And when you see that this right here has demand created, you know that your buys is going to be down here. Demand created this whole area tested again. So it's just like that's how you get in on the uptrend. And so if you can just put your market structure along with your order flow, that pretty much gets you. And I'm going to go ahead and end this video because it's going to be extra, extra long. And I know you guys don't look up for extra long videos, but at least the gems just dropped in this one. I just wanted you to understand order flow and market structure all together. Peace.